I know this because right here, right now, I am fucking Einstein. I see all the equations, and my heart breaks for both of us. I don't see them. Ben threw his hands up. I really don't see it. Enlighten me. Say you understand. That none of us is what the other thinks he is. Ben had to admit that he didn't expect this. She has courage. He had to give her credit. This, not the one you took me for. Oh no, you're not like that. She reached for him again, and he pulled back. She nodded as if she had been expecting this, and it made him boil. I still don't blame you. And I will never blame you for my mistakes. I am not a psychopath, despite what you think now. But this last day burst all the beautiful bubbles that used to fill my head. The first is despite the fact that I cannot imagine myself without you. I cannot even imagine a picture where you are not next to me. I betrayed you, stabbed me in the heart after you warned me about what would happen next, after you told me that you saw the same thing as me, but deliberately ignored it. This is a gross illusion that can be lost, a sense of one's own virtue. Everyone at least starts out as the hero of their own story. And I haven't lost that feeling, if that's what you want to say. Ben tried to control his breathing. Candy, right? It was necessary. You're too smart not to understand why I did it. You said it yourself. Because I needed to feel your pain. Not guilt, but loss. Yes, after a day and night of doing nothing but facing reality. I agree. Mostly. Only mostly. But now you're lying. To yourself. More than to me. Now Barbara was calm. The tears have dried. You told yourself that if we still have a future together, I should know what you went through. I have to feel the pain. Otherwise, I'll just inflict it again. It makes sense. And I really, really love you for it because it shows that you still... I want it. You want me. Her voice fell. At least a little. So it's a lie? That is the only reason you had sex with another woman. The rest, maybe even the biggest thing, although I hope not, is that you were hurt and needed an outlet. Something was taken away from you and you needed balance. She looked at him long and intently. Revenge, clean and simple. It's not... I never thought you had it in you. Barbara is right. Ben knew this. He would never forget how fiercely he had Candy until she kicked him out of her house. Then, that night, with a mercy he didn't deserve, she let him back in when he returned, and he learned nothing. Even a screaming climax wasn't enough for any sane woman to tolerate the anger he was taking out on her, and the rest of the night at the motel should have ripped the scales from his eyes about it. However, it would have taken a crowbar and sodium pentothal to get him to admit it at that moment. So he simply remained calm. Barb wasn't fooled, he knew it, and she continued. This is a book of fairy tales that is closed on my part, that my husband is perfect, that he wouldn't use pain as a weapon, that he wouldn't walk up to an innocent passerby and treat her like a whore on the corner, that he will not forget his children and will not abandon them all night. How did their mother do it? Like their mother did. She nodded sadly. 20 years later, we are still the same, but in terrible terms. I am stupidly cruel. You are reflexively cruel. It's cruel and fair, and you know it. You took it from yourself. About 3 times, I think. Barbara tilted her head. Now she was confused. This? What is this? 3. I don't... My virtue. He smiled bitterly. My status as a hero is in your eyes. Before you posted this just now, I saw it. You asked me 3 times how I could... I don't know you. Your soul, I suppose. He shrugged. You asked how I couldn't see that you were dying inside, how I couldn't understand that you were completely sorry for what you did, and how I could ask if you even wanted forgiveness. Your confusion was clear as day. You were genuinely shocked that I wasn't just reading your mind. Because you always did. I've never done this. Barb, the ideal hasn't been ripped away, it's tunnel vision. You always do this. Always telling me that I should already know the answer when I ask you a question, and then ignoring it when I get mad about it. You think your idea of my perfection was that I was a saint. The truth is that you just thought we were closer than we ever really were. Her eyes widened, and in an instant, They were wet. No, 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 no. Don't say that. You can't say that. There was a fortress built with vulnerabilities. Ben had to look away. The ram was not needed. No! With a confused cry, she jumped up and grabbed both his hands in hers, squeezing tightly. I see you're giving up. God, please no. Do not give up. Barb? Now it's not even about what you did. Ben let her continue to squeeze his hands. Let her have at least this. Not anymore. Not completely. I believe it was a mistake you wish you had never made. I do. But damn, it was a trap door that opened. Now everything is open and it's... Reality? She stammered, trying to maintain at least some coherence. This is reality. This is us. And you can't come to terms with it? Okay, you're right. I never listen. And I'm right. You react on instinct. And it doesn't matter. What? Ben croaked and did not resist when his wife, the mother of his children, his fiancée and girlfriend, pulled him towards her and pressed her forehead to his. Who are we, Barb? Who should they be? Soulmates? Lovers with promises written in the stars or something? People. This word sounded like a sob. We're fucking humans, and that's all we'll ever be. Ever. We can be. Stop it. Just stop. Ben began to take the first weak steps to push her away. Everything is over. Barb wrapped her arms tightly around his neck, and before he could react, she slid from her seat into his lap, wrapping her knees around him and squeezing their bodies in an embrace. Everything hurt from this. Everything inside him and the breath at his ear, which carried her whisper, burned his skin. If I were chasing perfection, it's nothing compared to what you are now. Ben tried to push her away again, and although he tried a little harder, his hands were noodles, and his heart was on another continent. Barbara stepped back a few centimeters, enough to take his face in her hands and look into him as deeply as she could. Tell me what you will find if you take this nose from me. She ran her finger over the object of her request. What will you get if you take these lips away from me? Now, a finger pressed against his mouth. Tell me what this person deserves and how you will demand it. Tell me who you will give it to, in whom you can be sure that he will never do anything bad to you. He won't say anything offensive. She will never believe that you are wrong. Never make a mistake, small or destructive. Barbara clenched her teeth, trying to hold back a particularly bitter groan. Tell me, what will she look like? This person who will take my place. Please, please, if you ever loved me, tell me what I can never be. Tell me that there is something in the world that will hug you, protect you, and never let you feel pain again. Barb. Her name was like a razor through his throat, and his fingers in her hair were like a steel vise. Tell me, because if she is real, I will love her forever, forgiving you what I simply cannot. Ben closed his eyes and shook his head. What can I even say now? How can I get through this? How can I live with what I know? Ben would like to know whether this question was rhetorical or not. Second by second, Barb pressed her cheek against his shoulder and ran her hands up and down his back. The heart beats in unison with the heart, choosing to accept me. Watch me, evaluate me, and decide if I'm worth the risk. You have to decide that our life together was not a lie and outweighs what is terrible inside both of us. You have to decide that we can be better. She pulled away and kissed him gently for a long time before sighing again. You have to believe that I am better than my weakest moment, and I will withstand every dark look, every bitter word that comes my way. Because I have to believe that you are better than the world wants you to be. Ben felt his wife go limp in his arms, as if those words were all she had left. They stayed like that for a while. She was still laying on his lap, and he gently stroked her back, each not wanting to break the spell, not wanting to let life rob them of this timeless, cobweb-like moment. But life is inexorable, and time cannot be stopped. Ben, my beloved Ben, what will happen? The whisper was the sound of raw, exposed nerves. Time is running out. Life demands, and Ben is just a man, helpless in front of her cold face. Barbara leaned against the doorframe, admiring the view of Cynthia's new pool, located to the side of her new house, in the new, upscale neighborhood her best friend's family had moved into just a couple of weeks ago. She could hear the other housewarming guests talking behind her, but it was the noise and the sight of her two daughters splashing around with their friends that caught her attention and kept it riveted. They were cheerful and happy, and the sight of those faces, the outlines of noses and mouths that were so familiar, began the countdown for the tears that, unfortunately, had also been very familiar to her lately. "This is cute, they darlings, but you want to come back inside?" Barbara felt Cynthia's hand on her shoulder even before the question was asked. "There are a lot of people, also nice ones, who would like to talk to you." Catch up. Pause. Find out news about the hermit. It was a joke, and Barbara knew it. However, she suddenly felt resentment towards her friend with stunning acuteness. Fortunately, she appeared for a moment and disappeared just as quickly when sanity was restored. Smiling only partially, she patted the woman's hand affectionately. "Brr, people suck." She turned to see her friend's face. "We are all the worst," Cynthia chuckled. "A couple of little girls could ruin that theory." "Nope, they are not people, they are angels." Barb's grin was depressingly caustic. "I am a man, and do you know what I did? I used them shamelessly, without even hesitating." Cynthia frowned, genuinely embarrassed, and Barb laughed good-naturedly. "It's been 6 months since..." She sighed. "Since he left." She winced, but got over it. "And from the very first day the girls returned, after spending time in his new house, I asked them about what was happening to him. Hell, I was so inexperienced that after a couple of weeks, even my innocent little cherubs realized what I was really asking." "And what about... has he met anyone else?" Barbara began to play with a strand of her fiery hair, suddenly upset, even though she and Cynthia were closer than sisters. "I know Ben isn't like that. We're not divorced, and he..." She stopped. Was she really going to say that he didn't have it in him, even though she knew for sure that it was a lie? Had she already retreated back into fantasy? "It's deeper for this." Cynthia tried to finish for her, and Barbara simply let her. There is no need to throw it all out needlessly. Ben deep, but knows how to rationalize shallow impulses. They both are. She knows that now. The only real question was whether one of them picked up this trait from the other, or whether they developed this crappy little quirk at the same time over their 2 decades together. No. The big question was, does it make any difference anymore? Anyway, the girls weren't trying to hide anything from me, Barbara continued, suppressing her melancholy so she could have a real conversation with her friend. For I think 5 or so of the last 6 months, they had no problem saying that their father spends quite a lot of time alone. Now, well, lack of practice in lying has shown up, and they've stopped answering that particular question. They just say Ben is distracted. Barbie, I don't know what to say. Cynthia's hand tightened on her arm. Barbara wanted to stroke it again, but found that it did not want to let go, and took it in hers to squeeze it, to get an anchor. The other hand, however, was busy wiping her eyes as they met her friends. Paperwork is coming, I can feel it. 6 months in, 6 months of hope are about... She swallowed, then sobbed. It's almost over, I know it. Come with me. Barbara was desperate and becoming a disaster by this point, so she didn't ask questions or resist as Cynthia led her through the house, past the mutterings, to the door to her husband's study. They stopped, and Cynthia looked at her for a long time before speaking again. There's something inside, something that may or may not be good for you. Honestly, I can't say, but I agreed. She turned the knob and started to open the door, but stopped when she saw her friend's reaction. Barbara tensed, every muscle tense, and her lips curled downward in disgust. No, it's just, you can't do what I'm thinking. Cynthia furrowed her brows in sudden rage. Can I? You know, girl, sometimes it seems to me that we have the same brain, and sometimes I'm sure that we are from different planets. I have no idea what you think is waiting for you there." Barbara narrowed her eyes. "I remember planning the charity with crystal clarity, Sin. I remember that you were the one who hired the staff, that you were the one who conducted all these ice-breaking exercises that were a little too intimate." She crossed her arms. "I never blamed you. I thought you didn't understand what was going on, but now I'm telling you, if you brought Todd so I could chill out and forget about—" The blow to her shoulder was light, but not trivial. "Fuck you. Just get in there, bitch." Staring like a beached fish and rubbing her shoulder, Barbara watched as Cynthia opened the office door all the way and left the room without another word, bristling like an offended cat and with no less drama. Shaking her head, Barbara decided that curiosity, like a cat, would win and entered the office. And she almost fainted. "Damn, Barb, damn. Maybe you should sit down." Then he was next to her, put his arm around her shoulders, and led her to the sofa against the wall of the spacious room, with a tenderness that made her swear right now to control herself. "Ben, God, how? Why?" The eyes suddenly widened with panic, and the struggle was not to control himself, but to not choke. She looked down at her, still, husband's hands, confident that she would see. "Oh God, Sin, she said it might not be good." Sure enough, there was a large brown envelope swaying in his weakened grip. She covered her mouth with her hand and closed her eyes. Everything was quiet for a few seconds. Then she heard a rustling sound as Ben sat down next to her. Finally, she moved her hand but could not lift her eyelids. But it had to be done. "Fine, okay. I think I knew this would happen. I was just hoping for girls. I just hoped the little imps would keep their mouths shut." Ben even laughed. "It looks like they somehow succeeded." "Managed?" Barbara opened her stunned eyes and saw that the envelope was also open. The contents turned out to be not legal documents, but photographs. Beautiful. What the hell? Our history was trash. Ben looked into the distance, out the window, while he spoke. It was not just a fiction, but a bad fiction. The setting was too idyllic, the characters too perfect, and the actual plot was ignored because it left you fidgeting in your seat. "I know." Barbara leaned back, allowing herself to ease a little of the tension that gripped her. Everything was happy and sunny, and the first dark cloud ruined the whole picture. That's why we're starting to write a new one. Illustrate a new book with details, characters with shitty personality traits that piss everyone off, and illustrations with, details, like dark lines. When her husband shrugged, his stupid, wide grin that Barb missed so much appeared. "Crap. I'm not good with metaphors and stuff." She touched his cheek. "Ben, you seem strong." She laughed too loudly, unable to contain herself. She felt as if someone had brought her back to life. "Damn, I feel like I'm at a poetry recital right now." He smiled at her a little more. Then the smile faded and he let out a big sigh. "Barb, I won't apologize for leaving. I had to. It was too hard to be around you after—" Barbara sat up straight again and perched herself next to him, crossing her legs. "Understand, you don't have to apologize, but damn, I must be crazy for saying this." Despite her determination, she could only look down at his chest. "I don't apologize either." She felt him tense and continued. "I'm not sorry for spilling everything the morning you left. I could throw myself at your mercy, declare that I am the worst bastard alive, that I don't deserve you, and that I'm ready to do anything just to stay with you. But that would be an even bigger lie. You are not mistaken." Ben still didn't move, despite the confession. "We really deserve each other." She began to look up, moving a few centimeters. "With all my being, I know that for each of us there is no one better, and I would not want it to be so. What happened?" She froze, then shook her head. Damn, I'll just say it. It was good. This was necessary to ensure that we were honest and that something worse would not happen. Something like we'll wake up one day in 10 years and realize that everything was just emptiness, flimsy. If that had happened, one of us would have screwed up, and who knows if we would have been able to recover from it then. Barbara braced herself, turned her body to finally take him fully into her again, and took his handsome face in her hands. I mean, we're not young anymore, but we are not old either. Ben put his hands on the backs of her hands. And what happened was bad, but tolerable. If it had been worse later, we could have lived these hours bitterly and in vain. We could. Barbara let out a hiccuping laugh filled with glee. Because it won't happen now? Please tell me that's what you mean. Ben picked up photographs in his hands that showed a lonely house in a picturesque forest. The girls liked the idea when I suggested it to them, and Cynthia hates it, but is ready to give me the go-ahead. He snorted slightly. She thinks I'm a coward, I know, but I also know she feels guilty, and I took advantage of that to force her to set it up. Barb rubbed her shoulder again. I'm probably not so guilty anymore. Ignoring this, Ben continued, we are leaving for a month. Let's go to this place that I, already rented. He watched her, and she saw that he was waiting for her indignant outburst in response to his assumption. She responded by clinging to him and throwing her leg over his. I think I understand. A place where it's just us, where we should live without anyone's interference. She smiled. Trial. Cynthia will take the girls. Ben rubbed the back of his head. After I saw them in the pool when I arrived, I think the real problem will be getting them out of here when we get back. There will be two of us to do this, no doubt. Barbara stroked his chest, but not in a sexual sense, but with need. The need to feel him again, to know that he is real and with her. When are we leaving? Ben kissed the top of her head. I can't get enough of your courage. I live for your confidence. She kissed his chin. I hate your giggle. I hate that mole on your forehead. When you kiss me, my manhood hardens every time. And when you try to be creative, I know I'll probably have to massage your ego for a week afterwards. Every time you show ingenuity, I then float in the air for a week. Ben lifted his wife's chin up. One day I'll be an impatient fool again. Probably soon, whether I like it or not. Barbara rolled over and settled on her husband's lap. And I will become a forgetful idiot and will continue to be so until the moment comes when I should wise up. When his lips crashed onto hers, each one of them melted. They kissed like they did on their first date decades ago for a good, very good 10 minutes. Then, 3 times longer, they destroyed Cynthia's husband's new sofa. If Barbara felt guilty about it, well, by that point it was just another item on the list. Afterwards, disheveled and mostly naked, Ben and Barbara looked at each other, and he was the only one who broke the spell, although ironically, it deepened the magic. I hate everything in you that is worthy of hatred, my beloved bride. Luckily for me, I think I'm about to find out that what I can love about you, I mean the real true thing that I'm about to discover, will bury the rest pretty damn deep. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.